Christians from all over the country, in fact, all over the world, will be coming here to our nation's capital to march in the historic March for Life. And let's get something straight here. The news and media has been jumping up and down about the Women's March, which took place Saturday across the country and here in D.C., is a seminal event and the biggest event. Don't get it twisted. The March for Life event is historically the largest gathering of protests here in our nation's capital, with some years having as much as 750,000 people.
And it has been going on now. This will be the 44th
Wow.
annual March for Life.
That's amazing.
Right.
That's amazing.
44 continuous years of Americans coming together to celebrate the greatest gift that God could give any individual, life.
The gift of life. Isn't it interesting that the White House has acknowledged the event and will even have members of the Trump team participating?
How about this? The Vice President Pence, will be in attendance at the March for Life.
Brother, when I first got wind of that, and I think it was you that mentioned it to me, I hadn't looked at the news feeds to see. I was like, huh? Are you sure? I said, how long has it been? Has anybody acknowledged at that level of government? Wow.
Well, no. Well, what had been happening for the past 8 years is during the annual March for Life, Obama would issue a statement basically praising Planned Parenthood.
Yes, and making sure around the same time frame that he participated in Planned Parenthood events, speaking. You know, he was called their champion by their president, Cecile Richards.
Right. So, but no, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new administration in town, and they, from what they are presenting, they are not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I, for one, could not be. They're even opening meetings with prayer in the name of Jesus. I mean,
I know, man. You pinch me, slap me. Am I dreaming? What's going on here?
I mean, we're just giddy because from what we've had to deal with over the past 8 years, with an administration that clearly was anti-Christian, pro-Islam, and now we have an administration that is basically righting America's ship, taking America back on the course of its Judeo-Christian moral ethic.
My God. My God. I guess the Lord does, and I've said this, had all the naysayers that have written America off and had their bags packed waiting at the train station for Jesus. I'd always said I think God still loves America because if there was enough of us, the remnant. We're standing up and making a stink about everything we dislike. And I mean, if he could even hold off doing what he did to Sodom and Gomorrah because of...
If I can find one righteous man.
There it is. And I'd say a whole lot more than one.
But it's just, I really am, it's almost like pinch me.
Yes.
I can't believe that we have a government now. One of the biggest things, and you know this because, you and I attended the World Congress of Families in Utah in 2015.
Yes.
And one of the things that we were working on when we met with the CARICOM countries, was the United States, through the United Nations, exporting homosexuality and abortion. And now in the first week of the President Trump's administration, he has completely eviscerated that international policy.
He certainly has. And I'm excited. And you and I were talking prior that we need to get our brothers and sisters from Jamaica that we met at the World Congress of Families onto the show to talk about how this is going to impact them there in their nation. Because they've been fighting the battle, folks, for 8+ years with the USAID, Planned Parenthood, and the State Department.
And the United Nations Human Rights Commission.
That's right.
Right. And like I said, and here we are, he's just in his 7th day of his administration. He's already defunded International Planned Parenthood. The House of Representatives has voted to defund, the American version of Planned Parenthood. He signed the Mexico City policy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my God.
Does he sleep?
And these are things that the evangelical community pushed for
Yes.
and said, this is what we want. We will support you, but this is what we want. And this guy has gone into the White House and he has undone probably the most egregious of Barack Obama's executive orders with his own. And here's the difference between Donald Trump's executive orders and Barack Obama's executive orders.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump isn't creating new authority and new power for himself. He is rolling back the new powers and the authorities that Obama granted to himself.
Great point. I hadn't thought about it that way exactly. It's not like he's issuing some new things or something to give himself more depth and breadth. He's just strictly repealing that egregious thing that's been done that's anti-American to establish us back to our original principles.
Exactly. I mean, the Mexico City policy, for example, was first implemented by Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
And it was called the Mexico City policy simply because it was in Mexico City where he made the speech where that policy was implemented. And every Republican president since Ronald Reagan, in his first week in office, has signed and reinstituted the Mexico City policy.
Yes.
Every Democrat, in their first week in office, has rescinded. So Donald Trump isn't doing anything unprecedented. He isn't doing anything new. He's not, walking in new snow. He's not charting a new path. Oh my God, the sky's falling down. No. Donald Trump is following in the footsteps of previous Republican presidents. And folks just need to get a grip.
Okay, Rolf, but given all that's said, why is it that our brethren, I don't want to call them brethren, those on the other side of the aisle, still want to scream about, I get beat up in Facebook by those that I grew up with. And most recently, they seem to ignore all that what you're talking about now. But Lonnie, what about the lawsuit against Donald Trump for going against the Constitution of this sin? They are so blinded by liberal media that even the responses that we get from them, or I get from them, I look at this, how do I respond to this?
They're insane.
Thank you. There's no logical response. I said, well,
No.
Do you realize that anybody can file a lawsuit, a nuisance lawsuit? And I point out, even your President Obama, had lawsuits filed against him during his time in office. And then the response back, we're not talking about Obama. He's not president.
Well, no, but we need to talk about president because you guys are acting with completely differently with Donald Trump as president than you were when Barack Obama was president. You can't have it both ways. Either you're going to be critical of the president or you're not going to be critical of the president. But come on, at least have some integrity about what it is that you're doing. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, hit the music cue. We'll be right back. Don't go away. We're the right guys.
Hi, it's your business diva here, Melanie Collette of Money Talk with Melanie on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., we talk all things money on a global, domestic, and household scale that affects you and your wallet. You don't want to miss it.
The best late night conservative talk show in America. Tackhead Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Tackhead Sean and Tackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Tackheads Radio.
Talk Duke. Talk Duke. Radio. Talk Duke. Talk Duke. Radio.
times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network, Monday through Fridays, 9 a.m. They told me that I needed to be humble, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I decided to be awesome instead. That's The Willie Lawson Show, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. here on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
TECN,
where we'll be talking about all kinds of things,
from sports and politics
to food and entertainment,
to money,
family,
and anything else in between.
Community, holidays, all kinds of things.
It'll be great. Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
And he's about action. And truthfully, and he's going to run into a problem probably sooner rather than later. Because as a politician, politicians aren't about action. They're about procedure.
Yeah.
And as a businessman, you don't have time for procedure. It's about what do we have to do to get the job done. And at as witnessed by, what he's done over the past, well, not 7 days, over the past, what day of the week is this?
Hasn't been a
What's
week
today,
yet.
Wednesday or Thursday?
Today's Thursday. Hasn't been a week yet,
Oh man,
bro.
I need some sleep. So he really didn't start work until Monday.
Yeah.
So in 3.5 days, he has flipped government on its head, and I love it. We were talking before we went on the air about the fact that this is really, for the first time probably since Reagan, a true transition of power. Because we live here in Washington. We know the K Street shuffle. If the Democrats own, the White House, then Republicans are on K Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then if Republicans own the White House, the Democrats are on K Street. But
and nothing changes.
right. But when you get below that top layer of government, the political appointees, the career people, they don't change. And they are there, administration after administration after administration. But with Donald Trump, you're seeing not just a change at the political appointee level, you're now starting to see changes at some of these career levels. And so you're seeing that there is actually a change in policy, which you don't normally. When Barack Obama became president in 2008, and a whole lot of Republicans were like hollering and screaming, I said, don't worry about it. Relax.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the things that you want done, he's going to do
Mm-hmm.
because he's an establishment guy.
Mm-hmm.
What other president has been at war all 8 years of his administration?
Mm.
And this is the dude that got the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
So the policies that started with W in the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
the wars and everything else, he didn't come in and he didn't pull the plug on that.
Mm-mm.
The policy continued.
It sure did.
But with Donald Trump, he's come in and he's basically said, no. He's turned into the Kembe Batumbo. No.
No. Shot blocker extraordinaire.
Right.
Not at my house.
No. And so now, and that's why inside the Beltway,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're seeing such consternation and such gnashing of teeth because finally there has been a true transition of power. I mean, policies on the ground. That policy at the United Nations of forcing other nations to change their constitutions is illegal and it's an abomination.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes in and his first 3.5 days, no, and slaps it down. And then he's putting in place evangelical Christians who have our worldview at the State Department, in the military, at these other agencies, at education.
Yes.
My God, an evangelical Christian heading the Department of Education?
That's one that they're battling tooth and nail because that can bring about the change that we seek because what we saw Saturday in these parades is a generation of young people, predominantly women because it was a women's march, educated in public schools who believe the dribble that they espouse concerning so-called reproductive rights.
Right, and it's not just reproductive rights, it's the whole left-wing ideology.
Mm-hmm.
The left-wing ideology is controlling our liberal arts universities. Those liberal arts universities are the ones that are churning out our educators.
Yes.
And those educators in turn are going into our public school systems and indoctrinating our elementary school children with this leftist ideology.
That's it.
I mean, did you see the clip in social media about the teacher that was shooting a water gun at the image of Donald Trump projected on a wall in front of her classroom and hollering, die, die, die.
Yeah.
Now, come on.
They're coming out of the woodwork, it's that thing that the division is taking place in terms of folks identifying those who need to get a clue and those good common sense people who I talk about all the time on my show, shameless plug number 1.
All right, get it, that's it, come
Lion
on.
Chasers with Lonnie Poindexter, which you can catch Monday through Friday on urbanfamilytalk.com. Common sense folk who, like us, and those who we associate with, and the preponderance of Americans who can now see up close and personal the ugliness of what liberalism truly is. Here's the other individual. She's a Secret Service, a member of the Secret Service, who decides,
Grady.
I will not take a bullet for Donald J. Trump.
Right. She should be fired.
Summarily fired.
I mean, if you're on a presidential detail, that is your job. You are there to take a bullet for the president, for the vice president, for whatever executive you've been assigned to. If that's your detail, you understand that if it hits the fan, your job is to jump in front of that bullet.
There it is. You had a good friend that you and I both know, and a fearless warrior in the good fight is Reverend Ken Blanchard. And Ken Blanchard recounts a story where he says, I wasn't always conservative. He said, I hadn't connected the dots yet. I've always been pro-Second Amendment, but I wasn't always conservative. And he was on the security detail, I think, during the Reagan administration. He said, even though I didn't agree with Reagan's politics, I had a job to do, and my job was to protect him. And so here you have this fool. The only thing I can call her is a fool.
Right. Yeah. And so she hasn't been fired yet, but her membership in um, some auxiliary organization of Secret Service agents, the vote was unanimous. They expelled her.
Good. Because I think she did this because she thought she was going to be protected because she's a woman. And that's one of the reasons why the politically correct won't touch her. But she needs to be bounced. She needs
to lose her job. Period. You are a Secret Service agent, and you are assigned, and and like I said, now she's not on the president's detail, so that's a good thing. But the fact that she made that statement, they need to send a message, a chilling message, throughout the entire Secret Service hierarchy. If this is how you think, you need to leave now. Because you will be fired.
Yeah, because she's not on the president's detail, but she could be put in a position where she could be instrumental in making sure the president is protected in some capacity.
Right.
And if her politics get involved in it, she's compromised, in my opinion.
Oh, she's completely compromised. I mean, she definitely she needs to be fired. Period. I mean, there's no discussion, no early retirement. No, bring her in. Say badge and gun on the table now.
I agree. Now, going back to the teacher, and folks would say, well, Lonnie and Rob, how does that compare to a teacher in a school? It's the same thing. The teacher is compromised. Her job is to teach. Her job is not to espouse political worldview to her student, and certainly not to depict it in such a manner. This is why these kids come out of school don't know nothing.
Wait a minute. They kicked the kid out of school for chewing a Pop-Tart into the shape of a gun.
That's right. I forgot about that. They sure did.
And so this woman brings in a water gun, fills it with water, shoots it at an image of President Trump on the wall, and then shouts, "Die, die, die." Any kid that has been disciplined in this country over some stupid anti-gun policy, especially that kid who just chewed a Pop-Tart, they ought to sue the pants off of whatever school district that they're in and point to this fool teacher as an example.
I agree.
Because she should have been fired yesterday.
You ain't lying. That's a great idea. So anybody out there that knows who that student was who was let go, they've got precedents now, man, to go back in court and nail them.
And truthfully, if anybody out there knows who this teacher is, because like I said, it was something that was released in social media. There were no tags on it. So, I mean, as of now, I don't know what city or state that video was shot in. But we need to track down who this teacher is, and we need to get her out of the classroom.
I agree.
Because it's unacceptable.
Unacceptable, but you and I both know she's not by herself. There's tons of teachers like that, and they occupy K through 12 school systems, and they're obviously in higher education.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. But, see, our job is to agitate, and hold people accountable.
Yes, brother, preach.
We are going to do what the liberals did not do for the last 8 years. They did not hold Barack Obama accountable for anything. And when I pointed out to my black liberal friends, all they want to do is talk about Donald Trump is a racist. He's a misogynist. I said, forget about that. So you mean to tell me that for the 8 years that Barack Obama was in the White House, everything he did you agreed with? No, I didn't. Well, I never heard you criticize him.
Not one time.
I never heard you voice any concerns when Barack Obama's Department of Education changed the student loan policies and forced almost a third of black students out of college and hastened the closure of a couple of HBCUs themselves.
Whoa.
Where were all these black liberals? Did they make any noise? No. The CBC even said, well, we don't want to criticize the president because we don't want to give white people any ammunition.
Oh, my God.
So the members of the CBC did not represent their own constituents because they wanted to provide cover for a black president. And now they think that we're going to let them get away with talking about a Republican president?
Not on our watch.
Not on my watch, you bunch of bigots.
that they be.
Okay. Grammatically incorrect as that statement is, that they be. There she blows.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's just, like I said, I'm just loving the fact that we are having a true transition of power. And this president, Trump, has come in and he's not doing anything new.
Mm-mm.
He's just putting the ship back on the course that it should have never been taken off of in the first place.
What we say all the time, righting the ship. Just put it back on the course it needs to be on. I thought it would take a while. I know we have a battle in front of us, Rob, as you pointed out. 2 years is the next battle lines. I mean, because the midterms are going to be extremely important. But I got to say, 1 week out the chute, indications are we're heading in the right direction.
Abs, and the truth of the matter is, is it possible that President Trump is going to crash the ship? Of course it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible that any president is going to crash the ship.
He's just a man.
He's just a man. But as of today, I say give the man a chance because I like that he's putting the ship back in the direction that I thought it never should have been deviated from in the first place.
Yes.
So give the man a chance to lead. I mean, what more could be asked for? Give him a chance.
Give him a chance. Now, I'm chomping at the bit to hit, and I know you have it on your list of topics to cover, but with this not quite a week out the chute, the draining of the swamp has already commenced. Talk to our illustrious listeners out there about the 4 members of the State Department who have beat feet out of their office.
Yeah, these are high-ranking people in the State Department. In the Trump administration, they have seen that President Trump has come in and he has implemented or re-implemented policies lobby foreign countries to change their sovereign constitution. He reinstated that policy. If you at the State Department, if you don't want to work under that foreign policy, I'm glad you left. We don't need you there creating trouble. We don't need you there to be subversive. We don't need you there to be leaking information to the press. Fine. Pack up your bags and let the doorknob hit you in the behind. I'm not mad.
I'm not mad at all. Let me mention, and this is according to an article written on HermanCain.com, here are the 4 individuals that beat feet out of the State Department because they just don't like the way things are rolling now. And Patrick Kennedy, the agency's Undersecretary for Management, who had served in the role for 9 years, resigned unexpectedly. Assistant Secretary of State for Administration, Joyce Ann Barr. Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs, Michelle Bond, and Ambassador Gentry O. Smith, Director of the Office of Foreign Missions, resigned as well, the report stated.
I want that. That's the job I want.
Yes, the one you want?
That's the job I want.
Okay.
What's that one, the missions one? What was that one again?
This one's the Director of the Office of Foreign Missions.
Yeah, that's the job I want.
That's the one you get to do a lot of traveling, huh?
That's the job I want. I need to get in touch with the Trump administration and send them my resume and say that's the job that I want.
Push your resume. We know people.
Yeah, we know a few
You need
people.
to make some calls.
and so I'm loving this because, like I said, you and I have been working on this issue for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And Donald Trump comes into office, and in 3.5 days, he has started the ball moving towards solving one of the most egregious and illegal power grabs on the face of the earth.
Now, let me read something that points out to what you just stated and what you stated earlier about, regardless of the regime change, the K Street shuffle took place.
Uh-huh.
The 4 individuals that unexpectedly resigned, all of them served under both Democratic and Republican administrations.
Exactly.
So they're part of the establishment.
And that's the point. Like you said, that guy was there for 9 years.
Uh-huh.
So that meant he was there when W was president.
Uh-huh.
Obama held him over.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed because there was no shift in policy.
Exactly.
There was no shift in policy. But now President Trump comes in, and now you have, like I said before, a true transition, because the policy is going back to what it should have been back when Reagan.
That's right.
And W was Republican, but W was establishment.
Yeah, he was establishment Republican. That's right.
His daddy was establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Daddy was CIA.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is coming in with no ties to the establishment political class at all.
Yep.
So that's why I'm saying the reason people are freaking out now is because we are going through a true transition. And we haven't had to do it in decades, and people are just flat out nervous.
And folks, what this points out to, and not to pat ourselves on the back, but I will pop my collar and Ralph's as well in this effect. We've been saying this since before the elections. When folks would argue me down, no, Donald Trump is a globalist. Donald Trump is establishment. He's connected to Wall Street. Lonnie, I said, no. Donald Trump is Donald Trump. His personality is unique enough that he adheres allegiance to no one except those who are loyal to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so this proves that. The K Street shuffle, and I learned this from spending time around Ralph and others who have been in D.C. many, many years, is regardless of what administration's in power, nothing changes. They just shift to a different particular position.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the regime changes, it goes from Democrat to Republican or vice versa, they shift back. This time, it's different because the establishment, Republicans, otherwise known as rhinos by those of us who have love and admirations for them, they're being outed now, bro.
Right. They're being outed, and they're being given no place to run.
Yep.
And no place to hide.
That's right. Can't go to K Street now.
Right. I mean, K Street is limited. There are only so many seats on K Street.
Yep.
And so Donald Trump is coming in, and he literally is shifting everything. They're freaking out. And I hate to say it, but I'm loving Oh, absolutely. 24-hour glow. 24-hour glow coming. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can hear, it's time for us to take another commercial break. Please listen to this message from our partner, Pastor Donovan Larkins at the Chicana Ranch with his Protecting Innocence project. Please listen carefully.
Hello, I'm Donovan Larkins, pastor of Spirit of Life Christian Center in Dayton, Ohio. But I'm also the director of Chicana Ranch and the Chicana Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. And today I want to just share with you some of our materials that we've developed so that you too can be part of promoting prevention, education, and safety awareness to youth. We have now our Protecting Innocence t-shirt. It's a powerful marquee or billboard that you can purchase and wear yourself that brings awareness that children need advocacy. It's a powerful, powerful piece. It's simply a picture of that this marquee here with some additional wording on it. And you will want to be a part of that. We have posters that any of you pastors, any of you community centers, you may want to obtain some of these posters and post in the recreation center. It would be great to post this in the foyer of your church. It would be awesome for you to post this throughout the schools of your community. Involvement is what's necessary. And involvement is what makes the difference. We know that in order for evil to triumph, all that is necessary is for good men and women to do nothing. And then we have these little marquees. You can order 100 of them, you can order 50 of them, and you can pass them around to your family. You can pass them around at a family event or a local event that you're going to be at a festival or something. These are very handy, they're very cost efficient, and they make a powerful statement. They really make an impact. And then we have our Protecting Innocence ribbon. And in this package, it's not only just the ribbon, but it also has a message, a safety awareness message, actually a tip. And the tip encourages parents to exercise scrutiny with the relationships that your children are involved with. Today, we see more and more children being victimized by teachers, by coaches, and by other people, other supposedly trusted individuals. We have to prepare our children if we plan for them to be safe. And then you will want to be involved with the overall Protecting Innocence campaign, because we're making plans right now to build a retreat recovery center on our 150-acre campus where Shekinah Ranch is housed. And you can get this brochure. We can email it to you. That way there's no cost associated with it, so that you can learn how you can join our Protecting Innocence team. We are communicating with people globally, all over the world, that are interested in how together we can protect children from dirty, evil child abuse. We love to have you on board. We need your support. We want your prayers, and we welcome your financial contributions. Again, I'm Donovan Larkins, Shekinah Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. And by the way, camps are coming, so call us so that you can register your child. 937-422-6029. I'll see you later.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Packheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best conservative talk. Packhead John, Packhead Clan. And we're working on integration papers for a certain other guy that happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Packheads Radio.
Pack you. Pack you.
Radio.
Pack you. Pack you.
Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back. We are the right guys. I'm Ralph J. Chittams, Sr., of course, sitting with...
And I'm Lonnie Poindexter, and we are broadcasting from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., via SHR Media and the Exceptional Conservative Network.
And the Exceptional Conservative Network. I like how that sounds, don't you?
Sounds good, buddy.
So, it's just... I never thought, honestly, I would live to see the day when America would be put back on the pathway to being a righteous nation.
Yeah, I thought we'd have to cheer it for 40 years. Just depending on how you look at it.
It has been. Yeah, we need to sit down and do the math. We probably have been walking in the wilderness for 40 years.
Yeah.
Through Republican and Democrat administrations. But here we have now arrived with... and we said even during the primary process that we think that God was giving America one last chance to get it right.
I do believe that.
And and if America hadn't made the right decision and had put who in the White House, that it would have been game, set, and match for this country.
Yeah, I just know from those who are in the business community and those who have high net worth, who I'd had candid conversations with, who used to scare the pants off me. When you got somebody whose net worth is up into the millions, telling you that they're already making plans to beat feet out of the U.S. because they see where things are going, it kind of lets you know to what level we had sank.
Absolutely.
Because the wealthy should be able to weather just about anything because they got money. But they were even seeing that, Lonnie, I've already tell you, I bought land in such and such a nation and such, in another place that I'm not going to even tell you because plausible deniability is just in play. If you don't know, they can't torture you.
You're right. They can't waterboard it out of you.
I said, you got to be kidding. And he's a mentor of mine. And I said, you got to be kidding. He said, no, I'm telling you. And he told me this 8 years ago.
Yeah. And like I said, and if just imagine how far this country would have continued to fall under a Clinton presidency.
Mm-hmm.
She was ready to take Barack Obama's policies on abortion and illegal immigrants and his refusal to even admit that there are radical Islamic jihadists trying to kill us. And she was ready to double down on all of those policies.
All of it. She was in a race with Bernie Sanders to see who could be more socialistic. I mean, it was fairly obvious to see that. And, I called her Barack Obama 2.0. And I said, you don't want 2.0 in there. This particular revision of this app will kill your, your platform.
Right. And I did tell people, I told people that if Hillary Clinton got in, that would have been the impetus for me to start to look to leave the country.
Yeah, honestly. And going to Canada, ladies and gentlemen, was not the answer.
No.
Or Mexico.
No. Yeah. We're talking far, far away.
The Dominican Republic looked good. Because they speak English there.
Oh, trust me, I had a short list. I'm not going to say publicly what that short list is because I don't want people
I know one of the countries. I'm not going to say because I don't throw you under the bus, but I know when you're going to go to.
But now we have an opportunity. And truthfully, I really do hope President Trump doesn't squander this God-given opportunity.
Yes.
I hope he reaches out and truthfully surrounds himself with godly people so that he can receive godly advice. Wasn't it nice at the inauguration to hear prayers coming across the podium in the name of Jesus?
I note that listening to or watching some of the liberal news networks, that they didn't key in on that. They downplayed it. But the conservative and Christian news and media sources did pick up on that.
Well, because we're sensitive to it.
Yes.
Because, we've been told for years you can't pray in the name of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Separation between church and state.
Right. But someone who's an imam can pray in the name of Allah, but a Christian can't pray in the name of Jesus.
Can't mention Jesus.
It's all of these, legislative bodies all around the country, whether they're federal, state, or local, they all call themselves, wanting to operate, under the banner of God, under the banner of faith to do the right thing. And so they always bring in chaplains and men of faith to pray, prior to their opening session.
Yes.
Well, I've been invited to do a couple of these prayers before a few of these local jurisdictions for their legislative councils and things of that nature. And they tell you, and they greet you so, Reverend Chittams, thank you so much for coming and, and taking time out of your schedule, to pray us into our session today. Everything that we do, we want to try to do everything decently and in order. And we understand that, we have to operate under the banner of faith. But would you please not pray in the name of Jesus? And then you're standing there and you're looking at them like, what did you just ask me to do? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we want the prayer to be ecumenical. And so, if you wouldn't mind, please don't mention the name of Jesus because we don't want to offend anybody who's here who may not be a Christian. How come that Imam then can pray in the name of Allah? Explain that to, and
mention Muhammad.
And every time that I had an opportunity to pray in one of those settings, I ended my prayers in the name of Jesus. If you don't like it, don't invite me back.
Yep.
And after the second or third time, they didn't. Because I guess they figured he's just stupid.
No. Unstable.
Yes. That's right. I am unstable.
Unstable.
Who was it that called me that? I forget.
I know who, but I'm not going to say. I don't want to get you going. I did throw it out there.
I see. I've been called. The article that I was featured in the Washington Post.
Yes.
I went in last night and started reading the comments. Mm-hmm. Most of the comments were okay, but a couple of people in there just had to resort to name calling and called me a buffoon.
Yes.
Well, see, they couldn't call me any of the other stuff because I had already said, you've already called me that, so that doesn't matter.
Got to find something different.
So they had to come up with something different. So now the buzzword for the DC GOP.
Somebody in the
and
GOP.
one of the candidates who was running for office here called herself writing a letter in support of the woman who was challenging me, and she said that I was unstable. Mm-hmm. Really? Okay. We'll see how this one plays out. Because what do they think that I'm actually going to disappear and not come back to the local meeting simply because the Log Cabin Republicans and others got together to vote me out of office? Do they really think I'm going to disappear?
Apparently so. Because I guess some Christians do shrink back. Like Jennifer Holliday. When the heat comes.
Big mistake. Look, I told everybody who would listen, you have to understand what you all just did is you really have released the Kraken. Mm-hmm. I have no chains on me now.
So I guess Ken's moniker given to you, which was a mantle you really didn't want to carry. Now, maybe it was prophetic.
Maybe it was prophetic. Right? I can say what I want, when I want, how I want, where I want, about whom I want, and there is nothing that they can do to try to pull me in line. They can't say, well, Ralph, you are the senior vice chairman of the state party. You really can't say that a member of the party is an idiot. I'm not an elected representative anymore. I'm just a member. I can say what I want. Mm-hmm. I love the freedom. Oh man,
free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty. I was free at last.
And it's like, and I told the guy who orchestrated this, I said, you need to ask yourself a question. Do you want me inside the tent looking out, or do you want me outside the tent looking in? Because right now I'm outside the tent. Mm-hmm. Not only can I look in, I can throw rocks. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing you can do. What? Oh, you could, even if you try to kick, well, they can't. Well, I guess they could. But I'm not on the executive committee anymore because I'm not an elected officer, but we're going to fix that. But, yeah, right, unstable. Yeah, I forgot who said that. I had to think. But see, we get called so many names by so many people. We stop taking it personally.
Boy, I'm getting them put on a T-shirt. I just want you to know.
Ooh, make two.
Yeah. Probably run out of room on the shirt in the front and the back.
Make two. Yeah. And the one that I love is, these illiterate, non-reading people who think calling me an Uncle Tom is an insult.
Yeah.
If you non-learned, unbook-read ignoramuses would pick up the book and read it, mm-hmm. you would understand that Tom is a Christ figure.
Yes. It's a term of endearment. But
Tom was willing to take the punishment mm-hmm. for others. Mm-hmm. If you want to insult someone, you non-reading troglodytes, call somebody a Sambo. Mm-hmm. He was the villain in the book, not Tom. Yeah. So if you call me an Uncle Tom, you have just paid me the ultimate compliment because you have told me that you recognize Christ in me.
Yes.
So, and people need to just understand, but this is how liberals are. They repeat something that somebody told them, that somebody told them, that somebody told them, who they got from somebody who doesn't know how to read.
They're parrots. What?
Right.
Polly want a cracker.
Right. If you want to know what the latest phrase is in the lamestream media, all you have to do is talk to a couple of your liberal friends.
Yes.
Because all they're talking about now is alternative news.
Yes.
Alternative news.
Yes.
These fools never said the words alternative news back to back in their life.
Yeah.
But now that the lamestream media has latched onto alternative news, now all of these ignorant liberals, all they do is spout what they hear on TV.
Yes.
And then we just get to crush them.
We get to crush them because a parrot's vocabulary is very limited.
A parrot's brain is real small.
Real small, too. They can dance and they can repeat. That's about it.
Wow, so I guess they do have a lot in common with people in the hood.
Yeah, that's what I said. Oh boy. Direct your cards and letters to.
They can dance real good. That's too funny. Okay, right. Send all cards and letters to Ken McClinton,
Yes.
care of the Exceptional Conservative Network. But no, it's gotten to the point where, like I said, we get hit with so many names. It's just like, forget about it. You know, that's why when you said that, I was like, yeah, somebody did call me unstable.
Yeah.
And it took me a few minutes just to go through my mental Rolodex because it just rolls off your back like water off a duck.
Yeah, doesn't bother you at all. As you stated, gives me oxygen.
Right. And what's really funny is, like, now Steve Harvey was catching it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you know, y'all really hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Steve, imagine how some of the black Republicans felt that you've been calling all kinds of names for the past 20 years.
Thank you.
You've been doing the exact same thing to people for 20 years and not thinking anything of it. But now that somebody does it to you, you're going to get all butthurt and talk about, y'all hurt my feelings.
Yep.
But you've been doing the same thing to conservative blacks ever since you got a radio platform.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you've been doing.
Based on his ignorance, because his political IQ is limited. But I got to tell you now, I bet in some respects, his
well, yeah, he caught some heat.
Let's see what he does.
Right, but see, unfortunately, I stopped listening to his show a while back, so I have no idea, what it is he's saying or doing on his show. So I can't say he has learned anything at all. But we'll see. But ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the first hour. We have to take a commercial break here, but don't go away. The second hour of The Right Guys will be right back.
Welcome to Lion Chasers, where faith and public policy intersect. And now, your lion chaser in the good fight of faith, Lonnie Poindexter, on Urban Family Talk.
We're not saying that there's not instances where there's maybe racial injustice somewhere. This is America, and people are human, and there's sin in the world. He's the president of first. He's the first president to say that America is not a Christian nation any longer. But, we'll pray for our enemies while we defeat them.
You can't blame folks for messing up the city. There has not been an elected Republican in council in Baltimore City in over 50 years.
In the co-captain's chair with me today, Reverend Ralph Chittams. What's happened is the social justice movement has now been hijacked by a godless movement. Don't be bamboozled. Ladies and gentlemen, Frederick Douglass was a gun-toting conservative. It's not a black or white issue. It's a God versus anti-God issue. And I know those will say, well, it's all rigged. It's all a game, Lonnie. Because I get that a lot. And they're the crew that has their bags packed at the train station waiting for Jesus to come back. I'll be here in a minute. Trainer, no trainer. No, it wasn't Jesus. But he's coming. Meanwhile, Rome is burning. The host of the Black Man Thinking radio show. Welcome to the show, Stanley Levy.
Good morning, Lonnie. How are you?
The core issues, the bull elephants aren't on the horn. We got to do away with the entitlement programs and the things that hamstring us.
And that's where the conservative viewpoints really resonate for my generation.
I want to welcome to the show the host of the Exceptional Conservative Show, and that's my brother Kenneth McClinton. Welcome, brother.
Lonnie, it's an honor and privilege always to be with your ever-expanding audience.
Let your listeners be lion chasers with Lonnie Poindexter. If Lion Chasers sounds right for your station or network, contact Will Addison by email, waddison@afa.net. Encourage your listeners to be lion chasers with Lonnie Poindexter and Urban Family Talk.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursday. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red. Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network. We have a brand new show on at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. We are bound to make you think. We are bound to make you see things differently. We are bound to push you into action for not only your community, but your country. That's The Willie Lawson Show on the Exceptional Conservative Network, 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. See you there.
Hi, it's your business diva here, Melanie Collette of Money Talk with Melanie on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. we talk all things money on a global, domestic, and household scale that affects you and your wallet. You don't want to miss it.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press, Live Rebooting Liberty, and YouTube for a unique brand of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Guys, your afternoon drive time show. I am Ralph J. Chittams Sr., sitting here with
Lonnie Poindexter, and we're broadcasting live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., via SHR Media and the Exceptional Conservative Network.
That's right, and ladies and gentlemen, you know who we are. We are humans by race, Christians by faith, Americans by nationality, and conservatives by choice, because that is the only position that makes any sense at all.
And if perchance you should find that we are in error in some capacity, though how rare it would happen, always know this: we're still going to be right.
We're always going to be right. Well, that was a fun first hour. It always goes fast, doesn't it?
Always.
So we have, like I said, we always have a whole bunch of input going on. So what's been flooding your timeline while we've been on the air?
I wanted to talk about this, and I mentioned this to you before. I mentioned Jennifer Holliday, and we've talked about Jennifer Holliday and having that stellar opportunity to be on the right side of history, and she knuckled under to the pressure from the passionately misinformed. And now you have a Miss Cruzette Michelet, who performed at the inauguration and now is catching considerable heat from her family. In fact, she's getting all kind of backlash. And so I put a heading, I posted this in my social media, I just basically said, the price one pays for having an independent thought. And to quote Patrick Hampton, she's now a runaway slave. Welcome to freedom, Miss Chrisette.
Absolutely. Yeah. She said part of her family has basically disowned her. They won't even speak to her anymore. Simply because she sang at a presidential inaugural. Now, how many kinds of racist would people have been called if they refused to sing at Obama's inaugural?
And I can't even begin to think of the uproar that would have taken place if anybody bowed out based upon, well, they just don't agree with his particular policies. This is just a witch hunt. And but I commend the young lady for speaking up and participating anyway, much like the Talladega Tornadoes marching band from Alabama.
They tore it up on Pennsylvania Avenue.
You got a front row seat to that.
Front row seat. When those kids went by, and yes, I say kids because everybody in that band is young enough to be a son or daughter of mine. So yes, they are young people, but they're still kids.
Yes, they are.
They tore Pennsylvania Avenue up. I mean, I couldn't have been prouder if they had all been my own kids.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
And the response that the crowd had to them. Well, I mean, you know how it is. When an HBCU band hits the field,
they bring it.
They bring it.
Yeah.
And they brought it all the way down Pennsylvania. They brought it in front of the White House. When they got to the reviewing stand at the White House, they gave President and First Lady Trump something to listen to.
Man. And you got to think, or I would think, that from them participating, and how much money did they get to even come to the event? They were looking for about 70, 80 grand.
They initially were looking to raise about 70, 80,000 and wound up raising, last I heard, close to $750,000.
Oh my God. And I don't think it's done yet because they performed at the parade and now they're going back. Now their IQ has been risen in terms of ID throughout the world. And I think you stated this before. I think they're going to have increased student enrollment. I think it's going to be increased donor pool.
Yes.
And increased prestige on the world scene and certainly on the national scene.
And that's why you do these events. That's why you march in the inaugural. It's not about the person. For a school like Talladega, that $750,000 to that school, it's like $5 million to Harvard.
It's game changer. Yeah.
It is.
It's a game changer.
I mean, there are going to be kids at that school now who are going to be able to finish their education through scholarships because they have this now infusion. There are probably some programs at the school that they're going to be able to maintain simply because of this infusion of cash and this greater attention that the school is going to get.
That's right. People of America spoke up. And this is what makes America great. I say it all the time, that in a capitalist society that's based upon a Judeo-Christian ethic, you can make your presence known by supporting those who you agree with like this. You can't do this in other parts of the world, right? You can do it here. And those folks who gave to that college got tax write-offs.
And the donations to that school exploded after they received national coverage on Fox.
That's right. After that Fox interview, the president was on.
After the Fox interview, that's when the donations exploded. But now I still have to give credit where credit is due. Here locally, Armstrong Williams stepped up to the plate and said, "I will write you the check to come up here." A black conservative stepped up to the plate and was going to put his money where his mouth was.
That's right.
To pay personally, a personal check for these kids to come up here to Washington.
And I had the good pleasure of meeting Armstrong for the first time at the Wednesday.
The black tie and chic affair.
Yes. He stepped up. And he's a media media mogul, network kind of guy in television and radio programming, and he stepped up. That's right. He said he'll personally write it. It didn't come out of the company coffers. It came out of his own coffers.
Right. And and then the school said, thanks for the offer, but we'd like to do this, on our own. So so I don't know if he in fact ever had to write the check, because the school did ultimately raise $750,000, but it should be made known publicly that he put that offer on the table before Talladega had raised $1.
Wow.
So there was no guarantee that they weren't going to take his money, because there was no guarantee they were going to be able to raise any of the money. So Armstrong Williams continues to deserve a shout out for putting his money where his mouth was. But America deserves a pat on the back, because Americans, saw this opportunity for these kids and they wanted them to have it. And America blessed this school, and we just hope that that school, in turn blesses the students there, with continued scholarship opportunities and opportunities such as marching in the inauguration.
Amen to that. And so I would extend encouragement to Miss Chrisette Michelet. I hope I pronounced her last name.
Chrisette Michelle.
Chrisette Michelle, to be encouraged, because from her taking a stand, somebody's watching out there, somebody's looking at what she's doing, and good things will come for her taking a stand.
Right, but also understand, she's also taken some hits.
Taking a lot of hits.
Was it Spike Lee was supposed to include one of her songs on some Netflix release, and he pulled the rug right out from under her. No. It's like, wait, come on now. Spike, are you that black? That, this woman sings. This is what she does for a living. This is how she makes her bread and butter. This is how she pays her bills. And you're just going to say, because you did this, we're going to now pull this song that you sang from a hit movie from your soundtrack. That's petty.
It's very petty. But the world does not revolve around Spike Lee. He's not quite the mogul that he likes to think he is. He's got a lot of respect in the black community. Only a couple of movies I actually like that he ever produced back early in his career. And there's others on a bigger playing field that'll be paying attention to what she did.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I just hope that whatever little slight she is forced to take, I believe that our God is big enough to overcome.
Amen.
And to replace.
If the marching band's any indication,
right.
I think that's a great indication.
Exactly. That there are people out here in this country of goodwill who don't get tied up in all of this racial nonsense. It's like, not everything is black and white. Yeah. I remember when I was a little kid, what I wanted more than anything else was that 64 box of crayons.
Oh yeah.
You
didn't want the smaller box, you wanted the big box.
I wanted the big box that had the 64 crayons in it. And why do you want the 64 crayons? You want the 64 crayons because life isn't black and white. It all stays gray and everything else in between. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these few messages.
The best late-night conservative talk show in America, Backheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best conservative talk. Backheads John and Backheads Sam. And we're working on expiration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best late-night conservative talk, Backheads Radio.
your business diva here, Melanie Collette of Money Talk with Melanie on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., we talk all things money on a global, domestic, and household scale that affects you and your wallet. You don't want to miss it.
Good morning.
I'm Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Okay, folks, that's not how it goes. I think I'm Shannon, and you're Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. We are The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Live on SHR Media.
And on TECN.
Where we'll be talking about all kinds of things.
From sports and politics.
To food and entertainment.
To money.
Family.
And anything else in between.
Community, holidays, all kinds of things.
It'll be great. Join us from 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time.
Hi, my name is Willie Lawson of The Willie Lawson Show here on the Exceptional Conservative Network, Monday through Fridays, 9 a.m. They told me that I needed to be humble, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I decided to be awesome instead. That's The Willie Lawson Show, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. here on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Guys. I'm Ralph J. Chittams Sr., and here with me, of course, is
Lonnie Poindexter, and we're broadcasting from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., via the SHR Media and the Exceptional Conservative Network.
That's right. All right, so, like I said, today's been, honestly, for Washington, a slow news day.
Yeah. Slow news day, except drumming up old news and regurgitating it so that they have something to talk about.
Right.
But that's because it's been so action-packed for the last, better part of a week or two, and especially this week, even though it's after the inauguration. Yeah, I'm excited about, and we touched on this earlier, the March for Life event, which will take place tomorrow in our nation's capital, where people of faith from all over the world will gather and march up the National Mall and on to the steps of the Supreme Court. If you happen to be in the Washington, D.C. area, you want to make it to this event. It's seminal, and I think for once, the news is going to cover it because you got a vice president that's involved.
Well, not just that. David Muir did an interview with President Trump in the White House, and they were talking, and he brought up the crowds. David Muir brought up the crowd for the Women's March this past Saturday. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump's response was, the biggest march in the nation is coming up on Friday, the March for Life. Mm-hmm. And David Muir stood there in shock.
They can't hide it anymore.
Because they never expected to hear a president of the United States promote the March for Life.
Certainly not the likes of Donald J. Trump.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm definitely going to be
the
here.
The pro-abortion president, as they were calling him before he was elected.
Right. Well, and like you and I said, Donald Trump is a baby Christian.
Yes.
But he is surrounding himself with some powerful men of God, like Franklin Graham, and some others who are going to be his spiritual counselors, his guides. And if those are the people with whom he's surrounding himself, I can rest easy at night.
I certainly rested easy. You and I know, having access to the transition team, we know that Franklin Graham, we know that James Dobson, we know that J. Kenneth Blackwell, we know that K. Coles James, and a host of others, and they are real deal Christian folk.
That's right, real deal.
Yeah.
I mean, they walk the walk and talk the talk.
They do.
And so like I said, I'm just thrilled, and I'm just going to tell Lonnie now, I'm going to be descending on him early tomorrow morning. and we're going to hook up and go to the march together. Hopefully we can get some interviews with some of the people on the march, and hopefully we can figure out how to air some of those interviews during the show tomorrow afternoon. But it's times like this where I wish we had a video feed so I could take video and show the sea of humanity that attends annually this March for Life. Because if you listen to the mainstream media, they make it seem like, oh, there's about 6 or 7 just crazies out here, banging tambourines and praying on the steps of the Supreme Court building. But, it's nothing major. No, you need to understand that there are tens, if not hundreds, of thousands of people who will be in the District of Columbia tomorrow praying for life.
Trust me, this will be number 5 for me. Last year, there was a couple 100,000 people. The weather was atrocious. There would have been at least twice as many, but they had that blizzard that came through.
Right.
Look at the weather. The weather's great here by DC standards. We should be blanketed in snow right now. And so I think we're going to have a record number of people showing up tomorrow.
Okay, so since you mentioned the weather, tomorrow, Friday, here in Washington, D.C., the weather is going to go from a high of 45 to a low of 30. And so that 30, of course, is going to be, let me see. In the late afternoon after the sun goes down. So when the march starts at 12 noon, it'll be in the mid 40s, and it's going to go up, and then it'll go down slightly. So, ladies and gentlemen, come to Washington, D.C. Get your march on with us for the March for Life. It is not going to be that cold. And I'll make an offer to you. If you are a listener of this show and you come to D.C. and you let me know you're here and you can find me, I will buy you your first cup of coffee.
There you go. There you go.
I'm not bribery. It's not beneath me.
Not beneath me. I can already see who's going to be lining up to get that free cup of coffee. Now,
and it won't be Starbucks.
Thank you. And this is excluding our personal friends. Let's just put that in there.
Oh, yeah.
Because I already know.
Right. This excludes our personal friends. These are our listeners, are the friends that we have not yet met.
There it is.
Right.
Because if I see Miss Melanie or Daryl Graham or any of the other folks that we know that are listening into the show, or Miss Celeste, if she makes it up from New Orleans, we'll get Celeste one.
New Orleans. Miss Celeste gets a cup of coffee.
Yeah, she gets a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's a commitment to come up from New Orleans. Absolutely.
If you're local,
Right. If you can drive here in an hour and a half, you can buy your own coffee. And so we can go to Pete's. How's that?
Yep.
They make a pretty good cup of coffee. And then, I don't know. The closest Pete's I know is close to you on 13th Street.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one on the Hill or not.
Yeah, there's one here in downtown D.C., and that's the only one that I know of.
Well, we'll find someplace suitable for Christians to have a cup of coffee that's not Starbucks.
Exactly.
So that's that. This is. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing coming out of the Trump administration. I really am encouraged. And what's also encouraging is just the gnashing of teeth and the consternation from our friends on the left.
Okay.
That also lets us know we're headed in the right direction.
They are throwing pots and pans, brother. They're having hissy fits.
Right.
And so that lets us know we must be having an impact.
Right. Because if you're not running into any opposition, that means you're not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that these guys, like you said, are throwing pots and pans and hissy fits,
yes,
he is doing what he's supposed to do. And this is just testimony to the fact that he is just, like you said, just rocking and rolling and doing, I'm going to say he's doing God's work. If you're protecting life, if you're protecting the innocent, you are doing God's work.
Well, in the Bible, Cyrus was not a quote-unquote particularly godly man, but he respected Israel, and because he did that, God gave him favor.
Right. Right, exactly. And we talk about, Donald Trump doing, God's work, which I truly believe, and then we have our friends on the left talking about they're doing God's work. What was it, Nancy Pelosi or something in a speech that she made?
Nancy Pelosi. Democrats do the Lord's work. Republicans dishonor God. She said it with a straight face.
Well, you have to understand, she's got so much Botox in her face, it's always straight.
That's true. There's never any expressions on her face.
No.
Her lips move, but nothing else.
No.
Oh,
if she has another surgery, her lips are going to be in her forehead. She's gonna look like that Versace chick. You know the one I'm talking about?
Donatella Versace. Ooh, that's a scary individual.
Man, like plastic surgery gone wrong.
Yeah, like a comedian said, I have to sneak up on a glass of water to get a drink.
We're not going back to Foghorn Leghorn quotes. We're not this show. We do those on Friday. So, ladies and gentlemen, completely off the rails. Tune in tomorrow on Friday. Friday is our What the Heck Day.
Yeah.
We pretty much operate without a net, and wherever we go. You know, we try to be good because we have a few women in our life who always try to tell us to behave. But tune in tomorrow, and we have no idea where we're going to go, but we'll be just flying around on the trapeze acting crazy. But Nancy Pelosi says that the Democrats are doing the
She's an embarrassment to any true Catholic.
I mean, I just want the cardinal of her diocese. What does he think when she says something like this, and then she presents herself before him for communion?
Yeah.
How do you give her communion after she says something like that?
I don't think she's been to communion since Jesus was in high school. I just don't think she's. I'm just saying. She has. I bet her priest and her bishop in her region has seen hide nor hair of her, except when she wants to come for votes.
Except during election season. But this is what liberals do. This is what these Democrats do. They repeat lie after lie after lie after lie, and they repeat it so often that if you don't know any better, you start scratching your head and you're thinking, well, maybe it just might be true.
Soloninsky 101. Tell a lie often enough, it becomes
believable. It becomes the truth. Mm-hmm. Like the same way that the Democrats have, the DNC has on its homepage, that the Democrat Party has always been in the forefront of civil rights and voting rights in this country. That is actually on the Democrat National Committee website, that they have always been in the forefront of voting and civil rights. You bunch of lying hypocrites.
And they do it with a straight face. And there's enough people out there that believe them.
Right.
And we saw most of them this past Saturday marching.
That's right.
Pennsylvania Avenue.
And most of them are our Facebook friends.
Yes. Oh boy.
And then we have to push back with the truth.
Yes. And take the heat when it comes.
Right. I had somebody give me a whole list of Dixiecrats in Congress in the 60s that he claimed all became Republicans.
Yeah, but he couldn't provide any proof that they switched parties.
No, the proof is that they never switched.
Exactly.
But
that's my point.
Right, but he listed their names as this one became a Republican and this one became a Republican and this one became bruh. No, they never switched. They died Democrats.
Robert Byrd, Grand Dragon, Ku Klux Klan, died a Democrat.
And he wasn't the only one.
Yep.
There's a whole rack of them.
Yep.
But the lie is that all of those racist Democrats switched and became no, they didn't.
Otherwise known as a Southern strategy,
right?
Which is a myth.
95% of the Dixiecrats in Congress never switched parties.
That's right. That's right.
They stayed Democrats until the day they died.
They just changed their strategy and their messaging. That's all they did.
There
was no need to walk around with a white robe on your head with holes in it. All you do is rebrand yourself and let Planned Parenthood do the dirty work.
But it's even more insidious than that. It's how you train elephants at the zoo.
Yes.
You would take an elephant and you would chain it to a post.
Yep.
And that elephant would try to get away. He tried to get away, but he couldn't get away because he was chained to the post. Well, after however long it took, you no longer had to tie that elephant to the post. All you had to do was put the rope or the chain around the elephant's neck.
Yes.
And that elephant would voluntarily stay right there because in the elephant's mind, I have the chain around my neck. I won't be able to go anywhere. I'm not even going to bother trying anymore.
Exactly.
And that's what the Democrats did. They brainwashed Black America to the point that they no longer needed night riders and white robes and horses and sheets. They had trained the black psyche so much that the black mind was like, I can't go anywhere. I'm just going to stay right here.
I'm going to stay right here. And whatever crumbs they give me from the table, that's more than what I had before.
And I'm willing to accept it.
Yes.
Black America has been the subject of the most vicious brainwashing on the face of the earth.
Yeah. Yeah. And all by design. If there's ever a case for racism, that's where the case for racism is. But understand it's a bigger picture. And I tell black folks this, and they don't seem to get it, at least most of them. And that is that they went after our community first because if they could break the black community, then the rest of America would not be a problem.
Right.
We were the guinea pigs, ladies and gentlemen. We were the grand experiment. We were the petri dish. And, well, if not for this thing that took place November 8th, they've been well on their way to implementing this stuff nationally because you got a whole section of the community now that it does not happen to be black that begins to believe the same conditioning of those elephants you speak of.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Right. No, I'm not saying that this was an exclusive, black thing.
No, but it came after us first.
Yeah. And you and I, we catch it because we realize I'm free.
Yes.
I don't have to stand here next to this post and look at it because that post means nothing to me. I can go where I want, do what within reason, of course. We can't rob a bank. But we have
not legally.
Right, but we have broken free from the mind control.
The mind control no longer has impact. And so when those who like to throw rocks, calling us Uncle Toms and all these other affectionate monikers they throw at us, what they don't understand is, like I was told yesterday, that I just have gone from being the field Negro to being the house Negro. And that was supposed to be offensive to me. And I responded back, well, I'm neither the field Negro or the house Negro. I'm the free Negro.
Right.
Nothing but crickets after that.
Of course.
I said, not unlike Frederick Douglass.
Right.
Be free, brother. Join me.
No. You are neither the field Negro nor the house Negro. You are the condo dwelling Negro. I am the house owning Negro.
Wait. I heard somebody called Ben Carson a house Negro. And somebody responded back in my feed in social media, said, no, he's the head of HUD Negro.
Right. Well, it was like somebody said to Tim Scott, they referred to him as house Negro. And he responded with one word. And his one word response was Senate. See, it's like, stop playing with people.
Don't be playing with me.
Don't be playing.
Give it to you with both barrels. I love that. Senate.
I mean, he owned the internet. When he responded with that one word, Senate, he broke Black Twitter. It was the best clapback for that whole 24 hours.
Powerful.
Senate.
But that's how we roll. Those of us on the conservative side of our worldview, that's how we roll. And you see this all the time, my brother, that they come us up with emotion and drama. And then when that fails, because we come back with fact and reason, then they resort to name calling.
Right.
You see it, I don't care who you deal with when they have that worldview. So here it comes. Okay, they throw all this half-truths to put up talking points and parrots from the left. And then when all else fails, you get called a name.
Right. Yeah, when they have nothing, when they've gotten to the end of their bag, they've lost the argument, they have nothing else they can throw at you, they resort to name calling.
Yep.
I had to block somebody, one of my old high school
It's always old high school
mates.
Yes.
The other day, he referred to me using a nickname, and I told him I don't like that nickname. No, please do not refer to me using that nickname. I find it insulting. Please don't. Now, if somebody asks you politely, you know what my name is, please don't refer to me by that nickname. I don't like it. I find it insulting. You honor that request. I didn't jump down his throat. I didn't insult him. I didn't call him any names. It was just like, please, do not call me that. I find it insulting and demeaning. He comes back and doubles down.
Well, he crossed the line. Oh, Lord, did the Kraken come out?
Oh, the Kraken came out. And then he wants to get, the big bad Reverend Chittams. Now I'm sick of reading all your BS. I went in and blocked him, and then I came back online and said, for those of you who are such and such's friend, please let him know that he has been blocked. I told you all I can only be abused if I consent to being abused. I do not consent. Here is your first and last warning. You will be blocked. No. I asked polite, man to man, look, don't call me that. I don't like it. The only response to that is, cool.
Cool, yeah.
But no, he gonna try to be all hard. Now, when I go back to New York, I'm sure at some point I'm going to run into him. Because I'm not going to not go to events at my high school because I might run into him. I'm going to show up.
Of course.
Now, what happens after that is up to him.
It's all him.
The ball's in his court. We can handle this one of a million ways. I'm not going to hide from you. I'm not going to run from you. If I see you coming, I'm not going to duck into a corner. I'm not going to run into a bathroom. If he's talking to somebody and I want to talk to that person, I'll walk right up into the middle of the conversation. However you want to carry it, bro, it's how we're going to carry it.
Yep. The one thing that they seem to misunderstand is they think because of our worldview that we're wimpy.
Well, the reason they think we're wimpy is because they really don't have a true view and a true image of Jesus Christ.
There it is.
See, they have this image of a Birkenstock wearing, hippie looking Jesus.
Love guru.
Right. Peace, love, dope, all that kind of stuff. But see, the Jesus that I know about was the one that made a whip, beat people out of his daddy's temple, flipped over their tables, and made a mess of stuff.
And called them a brood of vipers.
Right.
A bunch of snakes.
Called them a bunch of snakes. See, that's the Jesus I know, and that's the Jesus that I want to be when I grow up.
And speaking of snakes, let me back up a little bit. I just got a post from some friend of mine in social media who I guess has access to Nancy Pelosi, or knows Nancy Pelosi, says that she has been denied communion for the past 3 years. So she didn't do so. She didn't even go to the Catholic Church.
All right, well, see, that answered that question right there, didn't it? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't go away. We're coming up. This is our last commercial break of the show. We're going to be playing the clip from Pastor Larkins again at the Chicana Ranch, protecting innocence. Please watch out and take care of your children. We will be right back.
Hello, I'm Donovan Larkins, pastor of Spirit of Life Christian Center in Dayton, Ohio. But I'm also the director of Chicana Ranch and the Chicana Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. And today I want to just share with you some of our materials that we've developed so that you too can be part of promoting prevention, education, and safety awareness to you. We have now our Protecting Innocence t-shirt. It's a powerful marquee or billboard that you can purchase and wear yourself that brings awareness that children need advocacy. It's a powerful, powerful piece. It's simply a picture of that with this marquee here with some additional wording. You will want to be a part of that. We have posters that any of you pastors, any of you community centers, you may want to obtain some of these posters and post in the recreation center. It would be great to post this in the foyer of your church. It would be awesome for you to post this throughout the schools of your community. Involvement is what's necessary. Involvement is what makes a difference. We know that in order for evil to triumph, all that is necessary is for good men and women to do nothing. And then we have these little marquees. You can order 100 of them, you can order 50 of them, you can pass them around to your family, you can pass them around at a family event or a local event that you're going to be at a festival or something. These are very handy, they're very cost efficient, they make a powerful statement, they really make an impact. And then we have Protecting Innocence ribbon. In this package, it's not only just a ribbon, but it also has a message, a safety awareness message, actually a tip. And the tip encourages parents to exercise scrutiny with the relationships that your children are involved with. Today, we see more and more children being victimized by teachers, by coaches, and by other people, other supposedly trusted individuals. And we have to prepare our children if we plan for them to be safe. Then you will want to be involved with the overall Protecting Innocence campaign, because we're making plans right now to build a retreat recovery center on our 150-acre campus where Shekinah Ranch is housed. And you can get this brochure, we can email it to you. That way there's no cost associated with it, so that you can learn how you can join our Protecting Innocence teams. We are communicating with people globally, all over the world, that are interested in how together we can protect children from dirty, evil child abuse. We love to have you on board. We need your support. We want your prayers, and we welcome your financial contributions. Again, I'm Donovan Larkins, Shekinah Ranch Protecting Innocence campaign. By the way, camps are coming, so call us so that you can register your child. 937-422-6029. See you.
The bloviating Zeppelin. He's big-footed enough radio shows to last a lifetime, courtesy of Sean, Clint, Ken, and Jersey Joe. Now it's time for him to waddle on his own 2 feet via the glorious SHR media. Gird thy loins for the bloviating Zeppelin's berserk bobcat saloon. Coming soon for articles near you. Excelsior.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Guys. Of course, I'm Ralph J. Chittams Sr., and sitting here with me is
Lonnie Poindexter, and we're broadcasting from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the SHR Media and the Exceptional Conservative Network.
Yeah, somebody just forwarded me that article that you were talking about Nancy Pelosi, talking about Democrats do the Lord's work and Republicans dishonor God. This is absolute garbage.
That's what they do. And she was reaffirmed by the Democrats after losing horribly in the election. So it lets us know that they haven't learned the lesson yet. So they'll continue along this primrose path to hell.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the word does say, broad is the path and wide is the gate that leadeth to destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from living in New York that Broadway is real wide. And there's a whole lot of sin that goes on Broadway.
You lie. I think on every Broadway in America.
Hey. But like you said, you tell a lie long enough and loud enough, and people honestly start to they start to believe it.
Yeah, if you're not willing to do even a cursory amount of due diligence to determine if your positions and your worldview are solid, and you're only going based upon emotion, well, then you end up with the Nancy Pelosi's of the world. But I got to think. I used to think they were ignorant; they just didn't know any better. But at some point, the light has to go off. I think she knows what the truth is. She just don't want to honor it because the power has gotten to her. Because that old saying, "Absolute power corrupts." Absolutely.
Well, remember, you can't be a Democrat if you don't support abortion and Planned Parenthood.
That's true.
You can't.
Yeah.
You cannot be a Democrat and disagree with those two positions.
Yeah. But I know Democrats that are pro-life who think they can bring about change in the party. I said, how can you change the head? The head dictates to the body.
But what are they doing to change? What are they trying to... Okay, you say you know some Democrats who are pro-life. Okay, what are they actually doing to try to change the Democrat Party?
They're doing nothing. They can't do anything.
Well, no. There's stuff that they could do. That's why I'm asking the question. What are they doing?
Like what?
What you do is you find candidates that have your same worldview, and you run them in primaries against people who do not have the same worldview that you do.
And then the Democratic Party does to you what it did to Bernie Sanders. Stack the deck so that you don't get to move, is to get your people in place and elected.
And maybe that's God's way of telling you it's time to stop being a Democrat.
Bingo.
But if all you're doing is sitting around in your house and talking a whole bunch of garbage, talking about I'm pro-life and I don't support Planned Parenthood and I'm this and I'm that, but you're not doing anything to actually try to effectuate a change inside of your own party, then in fact you are guilty.
Yeah. That's the argument. See, that's a sound argument. But when they argue the fact that they stick within the party, it's not based on logic. You just put forth logic. They don't use logic. And that's where the rub is. Now, because I get it all the time, especially among family members. I agree with you on that abortion thing, Lonnie. I say, yeah, but you still support the party.
Right.
Well, because
and not that they just support the party, they won't even speak out against the party on that issue.
Exactly.
And that's what I have against most of these black preachers here in Washington, D.C. 99% of them are Democrats. But you can't even get them to speak up against such a vile organization like Planned Parenthood and a vile procedure as abortion. Yes. They won't say anything against those two.
No. And being silent is tantamount to being complicit in the action or behavior of the belief. And they look to justify that by using that age-old, I'm just about the gospel, Brother Lonnie. I'm not about politics.
The gospel is politics.
Exactly.
The gospel is politics. Because everything that we do should be clouded, and I use the word clouded. Everything that we do should be clouded by our faith.
Yeah. It's the benchmark to judge everything.
Right. Because if it's not clouded by faith, it means it's clouded by something else.
Yes.
If it's not clouded by faith, it's either clouded by emotion, it's clouded by reason, which we know cannot approach God's reason, because God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts and his ways are higher than our ways. So we can't rely on our own intellect, especially when God has set the standard and said, this is it. And even if we don't understand it intellectually, if God said it, we have to put aside our own logic and say, but God said.
God said.
And that's the end of the discussion. So that's why I asked you, all of these so-called alleged pro-life Democrats, what have they done to move the ball for the pro-life movement?
They've done nothing. And that's why you hear folks say, I'm pro-life, but I believe in a woman's right to choose. I say, it can't be both. Yes, I can. Because it goes against logic. And you outline logic, And at the end of the day, they get emotional. They don't want to talk about it anymore, or they call you a name.
Or they get mad, or right.
You're legalistic, Lonnie.
No. I'm not being legalistic at all. Mm-hmm. When you walk by faith, you can't be legalistic, because faith defies law.
Yes.
Jesus went to war with the Pharisees and the Sadducees because they were legalistic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Our faith hates legalism.
It's about relationship.
Yep.
That's something they pull out of the arsenal to use, or they pull out, what's the other one? You can't legislate morality, Brother Lonnie. I get that one too. I just laugh. I said, yes, you can. I says, our entire judicial system is based upon morality. Our governance is based upon morality. No, it's not. Yes, it is. We're a nation built upon a Judeo-Christian ethic. The very laws of our nation started with and end around the core tenets of the faith. At the most basic level, the 10 Commandments. Don't come to me with this stuff. You can't legislate morality.
Right.
It's full of crap.
Laws are made for a society to function in a legal, moral way.
Yeah.
Left to man's own devices, man would rob a bank.
Yes.
The law was made, thou shalt not rob a bank.
Steal a man's wife.
Right. I mean, all of this stuff. We are legislating morality with every law that we make.
Yes.
Now, the truth of the matter is, if you're a person of faith, you shouldn't need law to tell you what's right and wrong.
Preach.
Law is made for the unrighteous to keep them in check and to keep their lust under control. But the righteous man doesn't need law because he walks by faith and walks in the light of God, and his actions are dictated by God because he walks by faith, not by sight.
There it is. And we use Jesus as a little icon, as a pattern to follow, and someone to follow, who exemplified everything that's in God's holy word. But you can't argue this with the only thing we can do is plant seeds in them, because they're going to come back at you based upon emotion and talking points, parroting what dribble they get, because there's no substance to the belief system.
No. If you can get a liberal to have an intellectual discussion with you, you will beat the snot out of him or her every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Yep. Without breaking a sweat.
Without breaking a sweat. I mean, it really isn't fair. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, fighting a handicapped person. They really aren't equipped to argue these issues intellectually. Mm-hmm. They always fall back on emotion. Always. And then when you sit back, like you said, that they're great at shape-shifting, and then when you go, no, come back. This is what we're talking about. No. Don't, you're deflecting. Yep. Come back.
Come back.
This is what we're talking about. They always want to try to change the terms of engagement.
Always. You post something in social media, a topic of discussion, and their response is always a shapeshift. But what about this? I said, we're not talking about that. Well, I want to talk about this. You're on my page. We're talking about this. If you talk about that, I'm ignoring you.
Right. Now, what's really funny is, I have these people, these liberals, who honestly must just stalk my page. Mm-hmm. Because I'll put something up and bam, here they come. Do you know what's funny? Mm-hmm. I have not once commented on anything on their page.
Yeah. I told one, I don't comment on your page because I don't think it's important enough.
Right.
I don't believe in what your value proposition is. Why argue with a brick wall?
Right. Exactly. But they will come on, the page of conservatives, mm-hmm. and just act all kinds of ignorant and name call and accusations and disparaging comments and remarks. It's like, but bruh, I have never gone on your page ever in response to anything, any of the stupid stuff that you put out there. But if I put something up, all I have to do is wait 15 minutes. It's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here it comes.
Bzz, up. There's the notice. It's on my iPhone.
One word comes to mind when they do that, and the word is arrogance. They profess they know more than you, that what you have to say has no validity, so therefore they are compelled to speak on your page and set you straight. And then when you set them straight, like I've said before, it gets emotional and they call you names.
Right. I put up something earlier today, and I haven't looked at it, since for the last 2 hours. But before I hit the air, it had gotten up to 40 comments. It's like, y'all really are that pressed about what I say?
Yeah. And let me tell you why. Because what you say convicts them. They won't call it that, but it convicts them. It troubles their spirit. It vexes them. And they got to respond.
Right, because they hear the truth in it.
Yeah, because
even though they don't want to admit it.
They're being pricked by that rose of wisdom. On that rose, it's beautiful what wisdom is, but there's those thorns that prick you to convict your behind to either acquiesce and go, okay, or you get mad and you call names.
Right, exactly. And half the time in this exchange, I'm going, no, come back.
Come back.
That's not what we're talking about. No, come on back. Because they want to bring up all this other stuff.
Yes.
It's like, nah. They would lose a debate class.
Oh, big time. Big time. But, here we are stating the obvious.
Right.
Somewhere, somebody's listening to us disagreeing because they're liberal. They happen to stumble across the station. Yeah. And if they can find our chat room, let me look and see if some naysayers in there going, you're wrong, and calling us names.
No,
not today.
No, they know better. Because we punch back.
Yes.
The days of rolling over and playing dead really are over. I'm sick and tired of it. I really am.
I am as well, bro. So it's a great time to be in the driver's seat, so to speak. And we're going to keep speaking the truth because that's what we're called to do. And as my father would say, let the chips fall where they may.
Absolutely. Well, we're rolling up on the end of our second hour, and I just want to end with an encouragement to those of you who are out here listening. If you are anywhere near the DMV, please, please, please come out and join us tomorrow at the March for Life. I guess the meeting place is up at the Supreme Court.
It'll end at the Supreme Court. The rally will be on the National Mall, and I haven't looked at the map. I know last year it started at the Washington Monument. That might be where to stay, but I know the rally starts at noon, and then they'll start marching at 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, right. So if you're in the DMV, please come by. Like I said, if you're a listener from outside of the DMV and you are a listener to the right guys on SHR Media or the TECN, try to find Ralph and Lonnie. And if you find us, I'm a man of my word. I'm going to owe you a cup of coffee. So last words, Brother Lonnie.
Final words are, just know that God is moving in this day and age, and be encouraged. We know that at the end of the book, we win through the short for every battle.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, tune in tomorrow for the right guys. We are humans by race, Christians by faith, Americans by nationality, and conservatives by choice. And if we are ever wrong, which probably is never going to happen, understand that we will always be right. And God bless you. See you tomorrow.